before we start, we'd love to thank our educational partners. Cody's Cafe is very generous in providing us with coffee, tea, water, and these beautiful desserts. And then we also have other partners that help as well. We have Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, Wood Glen Senior Living, Holly's here. Lamar Nursery, who has given us all of these gorgeous flowers. Paragon Mortgage Group, Dancer Association of Santa Barbara. Inclusive Arts Clubhouse with Grace Fisher. We've got Grandma in the house. So we really thank all of our educational partners for helping us give these to you, and as well as Nancy and I are also sponsors. So without further ado, we are so excited to introduce Rachel McDonald, the fitness queen. We actually met in dance class, so I'm gonna leave it to it.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Rachel. That makes it easy today. You only really have to know two names. Nancy and Rachel. 2/3 of the people will answer that when I say Rachel. So, my name is Rachel McDonald. I've been doing fitness, personal training, group fitness classes, some nutrition work for about 15 years now. I have a small boutique studio in Cody on North Fairview Avenue. If you're familiar with where the movie theater is on Fairview Avenue, I'm just across the street, tucked behind a gas station next to a veterinary clinic. But that's where I am. It's about twice the size of this room, so nice and intimate. And over the years, my natural kind of course of my business has directed more towards working with what I would consider a nearly and newly retired plus clientele. And it does tend to be mostly women, but I do have some guys that join. And so this is just, it's a topic that I am very passionate about. So thank you so much for joining today and letting me yap about you, about what I like to you. So the presentation is really broken down into two distinct portions, the exercise portion and the nutrition portion. And we'll start with the exercise portion. In this portion, we're going to cover the importance of exercise, how it relates to aging. I'm going to reference some studies about that, so you know I'm not just making stuff up. We'll talk about the different types of fitness. If I had everybody in this room kind of shout out a few words about what they thought fitness was, we'd probably hear a number of varied answers, but they might break down into two categories. There's more than that, and they're all equally important. We'll also talk about what current recommendations are for how much of those types of fitness you should be getting in your life, and then how to fit it all into your life, because it's one thing to know about how much you might need, and it's a totally other thing to figure out how to make that work into your daily life. So, first, the physiology of aging and exercise, and we'll start by defining aging, because there's really two different ways to think about it. There's chronological age, that's the age that you are from your date of birth. So, you know, Rachel is almost 50 years old. There's no changing that. But there's biological age, and biological age does have some variance, and you see this in just the general public. You know, some people seem like they're aging faster than other people, and why is that? There's a number of factors that come into play. Diet, and today anytime I mention diet, I want you to understand that that's simply the foods that you consume. I'm not referring to a particular diet like a keto diet or a Mediterranean diet, it's just the foods you consume. Exercise, whether you're getting any exercise, what kinds of exercise you might be getting, what amount of stress you might have in your daily life, whether you smoke or not, it's a big one, or if you're around people who smoke. Sleeping habits, how much, how well your sleep quality might be. The physical environment in which you live, or you work, or you spend the majority of your time, and the factors associated with that. That can also mean for people like who do shift work, working a graveyard shift, those people unfortunately tend to have a higher biological age. It's really rough on your system. And then, of course, predetermined genetic expression, aka the things that we can't do diddly squat about, because this is just how we are built, how we are made. all of that's gonna equal a relative age. Are you aging faster or slower than would be expected given your chronological age? Now, fitness plays a key role in that, and what we see is an increase in structural changes. So atrophy is a wasting of the tissues, dystrophy is a faulty expression, edema would be swelling, demyelinization is the myelin sheath in your brain, nerve fibers, there's a myelin sheath that can kind of unravel, it sounds gnarly. Neoplasm would be a new or unexpected growth, such as a cancer. Mutation, the genetic expression as it replicates is faulty and messed up. So all of those structural changes, we see an increase in the likelihood of those happening as we age. Fancy words, what does that mean to us in a day-to-day basis? A decrease in our function. So we see a decrease in our accuracy, speed, range, endurance, coordination, stability, strength, and elasticity. That pretty much wraps up all the things, unfortunately. I don't know that I could put anything else on that list. Fortunately though, some studies have shown us some really great news about things that we can do to counteract that. So first it's gonna be a little quote from a study, and then I'll reference my work in case you wanna check on me, make sure I'm not just making it up. So people who exercise regularly have lower biological ages than people of the same chronological age who do not exercise. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Physical activity offers one of the greatest opportunities to extend years of active independent life, reduce disability, and improve the quality of life through midlife and older persons. Also pretty straightforward. Next one I'm going to break down a little bit after I read it. Regular physical activity is associated with a decreased risk of activities of daily living disability in older adults. A little bit of a clunky sentence. So, activities of daily living are all of the things that you need to go about your daily life. Hygiene things, so washing yourself, taking a bath, taking a shower, doing your laundry, cleaning your house, getting your groceries, taking care of any pets that you might have. These are all your activities of daily living. And if we want to continue to do those activities of daily living, that is going to keep us independent. We won't need so much help. Exercise, regular physical activity is going to decrease that risk of us losing the ability to do those activities of daily living. More benefits of exercise, because it's not just all kind of the doom and gloom exercise or you age. Reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. I'm going to jump around a little bit. 50% lower risk of type 2 diabetes, 30% lower risk of dementia. It improves your sleep, it strengthens your bones and muscles, improves your energy levels, helps to control weight and prevents cognitive decline. All of those are really great things. There's also a decreased risk of, in particular, 7 main types of cancer. I'm going to go anti-clockwise here. Colon cancer, stomach cancer, esophageal cancer, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, endometrial cancer, breast cancer. Regular physical activity, decrease your risk of all of those. That's important. I stopped with breast cancer. That was the last one because I wanted to hit on that one in particular. 30 minutes of exercise 3 to 5 times per week lowers your risk of developing breast cancer by 30 to 50%. That's huge. And breast cancer is really horrible and so prevalent. 1 in 4 women will be impacted by breast cancer in their life. Unfortunately, my close social network, we're already bucking that trend in the wrong direction. My closest group of 7 girlfriends, we are currently in our late 40s, running 3 out of 7. 2 more know they're taking time bombs based on their family history. That's no good. We should all be exercising. And just like, ah. All right, types of exercise. How much do you need? I had a little fun with some infographics here on this one. So, muscular strength. I'm going to start there. Here's my strongman. Muscular strength is, in the fitness industry, we would call this a 1 rep max. This is the most weight that a muscle or a group of muscles can lift and work. So, my guy who's doing, I don't do this kind of fitness, so I don't know. I know in the Olympics, right, there's like a clean and a jerk. There's all sorts of different things like that. You see them do it once, they drop the weight, they walk away, they wait for somebody else to do more weight. After they've had a little break, they come back, they see if they can do more, right? That's muscular strength. How much weight can you lift? But there's also muscular endurance. So push-ups. You generally don't think or see a person getting down and doing a single push-up and then getting up and walking away. I mean, I would say there's nothing wrong with that, but that's generally not how we do push-ups. We're doing a certain number of push-ups, we're doing push-ups for a few minutes. How many push-ups can we do in a few minutes? So this is how long can the muscles perform work. I'm gonna take a little step to the side. I'm gonna mention this once and then not come back to it. There's a third category of muscular stuff here, and it's hypertrophy, which is the fancy word for bodybuilding.
Oh.
Yeah. So the reason I throw this in here is because I do sometimes hear from people that they're not wanting to lift weights, they're not wanting to lift heavy weights, because they're afraid of bulking up. And the reason I want to throw this in here is because obviously this is an extreme example, but bulking up is really hard to do. From a fitness programming perspective, if you're wanting to work muscular strength, you do fewer reps, heavier weight. If you're wanting to do muscular endurance, you do lighter weight, more reps. Hypertrophy would be somewhere in the middle of those, but you would need ever so much more than that. You need really specific diet, you need to be working lots of hours, almost every single day. It's really strict, it's really hard to do for most people. And so I don't want anybody to be afraid that if they lift weights that they might bulk up. In fact, the opposite is true. The more lean muscle mass that you have, the greater your basal metabolic rate is going to be. So if you were to just lay on a couch all day, you'd burn more calories if you had more muscle than if you didn't have so much muscle. So it tends to lean us down when we have more muscle. Won't talk about that again. We'll move on from muscular strength, muscular endurance. We're gonna go to cardio. This is what a lot of people would think of when they think of fitness. So here's my fun little graphic of some people dancing. So cardiorespiratory, cardiovascular, somewhat interchangeable terms to the general public. Respiratory is breathing rate, vascular is heart rate. Anytime that those increase for a set period of time, it's cardio. It's gonna be walking, running, biking, swimming, dancing. Really important. Generally a little bit easier for us to get, especially here in this local climate. So easy to just get out and go for a walk. Whether we do or we don't is another question entirely. But wait, there's more. Flexibility. This is where I started to get a little silly. So, flexibility does not need to look like that. In fact, I would be concerned about her as she gets older. But flexibility is one of the very best ways for us to diminish our aches and pains. When you feel stiff, when you wake up and everything kind of aches, doing some gentle flexibility work is going to make the biggest impact on those little aches and pains. And it's an important thing to be factoring into any sort of workout, whether it's cardio, muscular strength. Make sure you're getting a good stretch sequence as well. But wait, there's more. Balance. This is where I get to demonstrate my kind of silly, dumb human trick. So, kind of a gold standard with balance training is, can you stand on one leg for 30 seconds?
No.
But also, I would argue, why would we want to? This is the only time when I do this presentation and I stand on one leg. This is the only time in my life that I need to stand on one leg for 30 seconds. It's a fun trick, it's neat, it is working my balance. I'm not going to argue that people shouldn't try to do it, but also it's not particularly useful in our daily life. There's better ways to go about working it, and I would argue that balance has kind of another sister component that is equally important, and that I would kind of prefer people think about maybe a little bit more, which would be agility. And agility is defined as a rapid change of either speed or direction. And balance is an important component of that. If we trip and we have to, make our leg move quickly to catch us, that's going to be agility. That was a rapid change of speed, maybe even direction. So those kind of go hand in hand, and I think they're equally important. And so you don't have to just stand on one leg all the time brushing your teeth while you're doing it because you think that that's going to be helpful in your daily life. It is a fun trick. All right, so how much should we be exercising? Because that was a long list of things, and now I'm sure you're all thinking like, okay, I only have so many hours in the day. Well, there's good news here. We would like at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity cardio, so brisk walking, dancing, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity cardio, hiking, jogging, running. In other words, the more vigorous the activity is, the fewer minutes per week that you need. And 2 days of muscular strengthening, plus activities to improve balance. But the good news is you don't have to do that all at once. Cardio could be just 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. There's your 150 minutes. And in fact, more often is better. I find that when people are doing things on a daily basis or every other day basis, as opposed to getting out for their one long class per week, not only is that more beneficial in our bodies, but it's helping us to create the new habits and stay consistent. Move more and sit less throughout the day. Some physical activity is better than none. In fact, there were some researchers who wanted to know what's the least amount of exercise needed to see results. The good news is very little, and I'm going to summarize for you. I'm going to put up a wall of text, but then you don't have to read it. I'm going to tell you all about it. There were some researchers who studied a group of, they were granted younger college-aged people. And they said, I want you to do 1 biceps curl every day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks. That's it. Don't do anything else. They broke them into 4 groups. One group, they said, don't do anything. Don't even do the single bicep curl. They didn't experience any improvement. Not all that surprising. Then they had those other 3 people do the biceps curl in a different way. One group just held it, isometric, 3 seconds. That's it. The other group focused on the lifting portion. The final group focused on the lowering portion. Again, just 3 seconds. That was all they did, 5 days a week, 4 weeks. The group that lowered experienced the greatest improvement. It was 11.5% improvement in the amount of weight that the biceps muscle could work. So, you don't have to go to the gym for an hour for a class. If you don't have time, just do a biceps curl. It's better than nothing. Always something better than strategies that work. Stop working out. Start working in. Put it into your daily life. Create an environment that causes you to move more throughout the day. Invest in a few little weight resistance tubes, a squishy ball. Don't put them away in a cupboard. You've got to keep them out where you see them. But whenever you walk past, do a single biceps curl. It's better than nothing. Anytime you need to sit down at home, sit down, stand back up, sit back down, then do what you were going to do. When you need to get back up, stand up, sit down, stand up, then go on with your day. You've just doubled the amount of squats. That's literally squats that you're doing. Remove barriers and excuses. My example for this is I had a client come to me for a consultation. We were talking about her past history with exercise, and her most recent, what she would have coined as a failure, was she said, I was so motivated, and I said I'm going to wake up an hour earlier every day, and I'm going to go for a run. I said, oh, great, you love to run. Did you run before? She said, I hate running. Okay, but you're going to get up an hour earlier, so you must be a morning person. So, like, let's look at the morning classes. No! Oh, I'm a night owl. I hate getting up early in the morning. Okay, well, she's just setting herself up for failure. She hates running. She doesn't like to get up early. You know, it didn't last very long. So you've got to have kind of that honest communication with yourself about what's really going to work. And ideally, making it fun is going to be part of that. So make it enjoyable. If you don't like running, don't go for a run. If you don't like getting in cold water, don't try to go for a swim out on Blue Beach. So here's a cute group doing like a musical chairs kind of a thing. Why did we stop playing games? At some point, we kind of all stopped playing games, and I wish that that didn't happen, because musical chairs was fun. You know, as long as you're with a good group and nobody's pushing you out of the way. But competition maybe is helpful. Maybe you like to dance. Maybe you don't like to dance, don't come to my dance class. That's not going to work well for you. Yeah. Again, wall of text. Mostly this is just kind of breaking down categories of options for fitness, of which there are so many nowadays. So DIY, right? Like pull up some videos on YouTube, create a couple of workouts for yourself, and do them at home. Well, that's cheap, but it relies upon your own self-efficacy, right? There's pros and cons to everything. So maybe you're more of a go to a class kind of a person. There's a good socialization component to that. It's still pretty cost effective. Not gonna be as individualized as some other workouts. Maybe you're gonna go with personal training. It's very motivating. You've got your specific workout that somebody has created just for you. But that is gonna be probably the more costly option, and then you really gotta find the right personal trainer for you. Maybe not everybody's gonna mesh well. In person, virtual but live, or on demand, like a pre-recorded. So in person, you go to a class, hooray, there's other people there, good socialization component. And maybe the crowds make you feel a little not so fun. There's also fewer options, right? If there's a class at 5:30 p.m., but that's when you're making your dinner, that's gonna be a harder class for you to get to, so. But a lot of classes nowadays, during COVID, we got all this technology working for us. A lot of people still live stream their workouts, so you can still tune in live to a class. That has a motivational component, because if you don't tune in when the class starts, you've missed out. So there's kind of that, you know, lighter help behind you that you gotta do it. But pre-recorded options have been around forever, you know? I mean, dust off your buns of steel VHS tape and go to the thrift store, try to find a VHS machine. Or DVDs, YouTube, so many options available, and then you can do it whenever it's convenient for you, even if that's, you know, 1 a.m. All right, normally I would break here for questions, but I'm just gonna keep going through, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. All right, nutrition. So changing gears. In this category, in this section, we're gonna cover macro and micronutrients. Hydration needs, how to read a food label, what your nutrition needs might look like. And then we'll also briefly talk about supplements, pharmacological concerns, and then chronic diseases with nutrition. So macronutrients, those are the big things, right? So carbs, carbohydrates, always have 4 calories per gram. That's your body's preferred source of energy, the brain's as well. They come in simple or complex forms. Fiber is a complex carbohydrate. Men should be getting at least 30 grams per day. Women should be getting at least 21 grams per day. Protein, also 4 calories per gram. That's gonna be your building blocks of your muscle. Real important. Made up of amino acids. 9 of those amino acids are essential, meaning we need to get them from our diet. Our body cannot make them itself. Now fat is 9 calories per gram. Some of the bigger forms are monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, saturated, and cholesterol. Cholesterol is only found in animal products. The whole 9 calories per gram versus 4 is really the crux of the kind of 80s fat-free craze, right? We said, it's more than twice as many calories per gram. If we just cut all fat out of our diet, we'll all lose weight. Well, we learned that's really not the way to go about that. All 3 categories, all 3 macronutrients are really important. They all play an important role in our body. There is a 4th one, and I'm going to touch on that briefly. That's alcohol. Alcohol contains 7 calories per gram. The recommendations currently are no more than 2 drinks a day for men and 1 drink a day for women. And those are not the goblet-sized glass of wine that you put a half bottle into, unfortunately. We're also honestly there was research that said, you know, a single glass of red wine is really good for you. We are unfortunately really learning that there's really no amount of alcohol that's good for us. Sadly, you do with that what you will. We do have an increased sensitivity to alcohol as we age, and of course as you age you tend to be on more medications, and many medications interact badly with alcohol, so it's just something to be aware of. The micronutrients, the little guys. These come in vitamins, which there's two forms. Water soluble, which are your B vitamins, and C. If you have an excess amount of those vitamins, you just flush that right out with any water, so through urine, predominantly. There's also fat-soluble vitamins, that's A, D, E, and K. Now I'm gonna back up. A comes in retinol and beta-carotene. Retinol, your body is just gonna be able to utilize it or store it right away. Beta-carotene is generally what gives vegetables that orange color. Your body has to do an additional process with beta-carotene before it can utilize it. If it has excess beta-carotene that it doesn't need, it will flush it out. The fat-soluble vitamins do not get flushed out if you have an excess of them. They will be stored in your fat cells. Generally not a bad thing. Sometimes it can be. It's hard to get that level of toxicity, but it's something to know at least. D, two things. You can ingest vitamin D. There's not a huge number of food sources that are real high in vitamin D. And they do tend to mostly be animal sources. So anybody who's vegetarian and vegan is probably gonna need to supplement their vitamin D intake. Or we can make it from the sun. However, we also know now that the sun is not so great for our skin, and so we tend to cover up, not go out in the sun, put on a lot of sunscreen. That is also gonna block, it blocks the UVB rays. That's what we need to utilize to process that vitamin D, to make the vitamin D. So, supplementation might be a route that you wanna take. It might be, we'll talk about that later. And then E and K. There's also minerals. Minerals are your micronutrients as well. We can break those down into electrolytes, which is going to be sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. It's important to keep your electrolytes in a good balance. It's very important for our heart health, like for blood pressure. There's also iodine, phosphorus, zinc, selenium, and then trace minerals that you need even littler of, which is chromium, copper, fluoride, manganese, molybdenum, and biotin. And there's even more, but there's kind of no reason for me to list every single thing. Hydration needs, an important component of nutrition and worth talking about. What counts? Well, just about everything, to be perfectly honest. So, water, flat, sparkling, flavored or plain, cold or hot, water counts towards your hydration goals. Pray. Probably not new information. Coffee and tea, yes, counts towards your hydration goals. There's a bit of a misnomer that caffeinated beverages are going to dehydrate you more than the water that is contained in the beverage. That's not true. It does dehydrate you a little bit, but there's going to be more water in the beverage than there is caffeine, so it's fine, it counts. Sodas and juices, they come with other things too, but they count towards your hydration needs. Milk and milk substitutes, broth and soup. Why is it important? Well, we are mostly water. All of our cells are going to work better when we're properly hydrated. As we age, our sensation of thirst starts to diminish a little bit, and so we don't really notice that we're thirsty. Our kidneys are less effective, and so we're going to flush unnecessary amounts of water. Medication side effects like diuretics flush excess water. It helps in the prevention of UTIs. So how much is enough? Well, I'm going to start with the official recommendations. 2.7 liters for women, 3.7 liters for men. A 2-liter bottle of soda. Almost 1.5 of those for women, almost 2 of those for men. That's a lot of liquid every day. But keep in mind, everything is counting, including a lot of like produce is high in water content, so that's going to count too. That's hard to measure though. How to, 2.7 liters, I mean, it's such an awkward number. I'm not going to carry around an empty 2-liter bottle with me. pour in and then mark every time I have a glass of water or something. So here's my straightforward way. You don't have to worry about 8 glasses of water. You don't have to worry about the, I weigh 150 pounds, you take half of that, 75, instead of pounds, you say ounces, 75 ounces. Don't have to worry about that. A little bit weird, but look at your pea. You wanna have a little bit of color to your pea. Shouldn't be clear, shouldn't be dark. Definitely shouldn't be any sort of weird color like red or green, but pale straw, little bit of color. You got that in the toilet? You're golden. All right, how to read a food label. They've changed recently. So we've got kind of larger type and some things have been added. Generally speaking, there's some things that we want to look for on a food label. One of them is going to be the serving size and how many servings are in a container. That's going to be a really important place to start. In particular, I made a poor choice on a recent road trip. Pick up a snack at a gas station. It's a cookie. It's a cookie. It's not really the best thing in the world, but whatever. It's special occasion. Cookie. Look at the back. That's 200 calories. That's not so bad. You don't think really anything else of it. Go to throw out the cookie wrapper the next day. Oh, that one cookie that you would think was 1 serving. No, it was 3. Who eats a third of a cookie? Well, clearly they didn't want to put on the packaging that it was a 600 calorie cookie. So that's how they get you. So you gotta check on that. Otherwise, we're looking for some things that are low, 5% or less. Preferably the fats, 5% or less of your daily value. Cholesterol, we don't want that to be real high. Sodium, that sneaks into so many things. Added sugars also sneaks into so many things. Like pasta sauce, that's a big one. Check out your labels of pasta sauce. It's amazing how much sugar they can need in a savory item. Other things we want to be high, 20% or more. Fiber, want that to be nice and high. And then any of these micronutrients. They're required nowadays to list vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. If there is anything else that they've added to the item, they're also required to put that on there, but they don't have to list all of the micronutrients. All right, so what do we eat then? We know how to read a food label. What does that look like in the real world? Well, the good news is there's a few eating plans that are recommended time and time again by doctors, by registered dietitians, by studies. The USDA plan, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, or the DASH plan, Mediterranean, and vegetarian or whole food plant-based. These all tend to be recommended time and time and time again. The good news is they share a lot of things in common. So if we just go off of those, we should be good. What do they share? Well, they're high in fruits and vegetables. It's really a great place to start. They do say, 5 a day is kind of the minimum that we want. So at least 1 for your vegetable with breakfast, with lunch, with dinner, and then at each snack if you're having 2 snacks. There's your 5. It's a good place to start. They're high in whole grains. Grains are not bad. Grains are great. Moderate amounts of high protein foods such as seafood, beans and peas, nuts, seeds, soy products, meat, so beef, pork, poultry, and eggs. Small amounts of added sugars, little goes a long way on that, and then more liquid than solid fats. Also, they're going to be generally low in full-fat dairy products. I'll be over here crying in the corner, because that's one of my favorite things. But I just have a small amount of it. What about your caloric needs? What does that look like for each individual? Well, if you are concerned about gaining weight or losing weight, it all boils down to calories in and calories out. Some people like to say that a calorie is not a calorie. And in the subset of, yes, those calories come with other things. They come with micronutrients or no micronutrients. Sure, I would not argue with that. But from just a thermodynamics process, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. No less than 1,200 calories per day unless medically supervised. That's kind of our basal metabolic rate, that if we're just laying in bed 24/7, that's how much our body needs to maintain itself. Generally speaking, women should aim for 1,600 to 2,000 calories a day. Men get to aim slightly higher at 2,000 to 2,800 calories per day. Obviously, those are big ranges, and it varies tremendously based on a number of factors, such as your biological sex, your chronological age, your activity level. I like to keep it simple though. So 3 questions. Am I hungry? Is it smart? How much do I need? Here's 2 scenarios for you. Am I hungry? Yes, I got up at 5:30 this morning, I had breakfast, I was finished before 6:30. I've done 2 fitness classes that I taught. I didn't have time for lunch, I haven't eaten since. It's almost 2 o'clock, I'm very hungry. Am I hungry? No. But I just heard on Facebook that my college roommate's 3rd cousin, twice removed cat died, and that news has made me sad. So I'm kind of feeling like I want to emotionally eat a little bit. Is it smart? It is smart. Last night I cooked this really amazing dinner. There's a salad, there's an extra little fruit there on the side, and there's it's a whole grain spaghetti, and I made the sauce from scratch with butternut squash, and it's creamy and it's delicious, and I can't wait to eat it as soon as I get home. Is it smart? Nope, I'm emotionally eating. It's a tub of Ben & Jerry's that I have in my fridge, just for these instances when my college roommate's 3rd cousin's cat dies. How much do I need? Well, I have it pre-portioned out. You know, I've got my little pile of the noodles, and my salad is over here. So yeah, it's a good amount. Well, how much do I need? Okay. After all, it is my college roommate's 3rd cousin, so it's not that important, I guess. I'll have a scoop, and I'm gonna put it in a bowl, and I'm gonna put it away, and then I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna remove all the distractions so I can just enjoy this ice cream. It's gonna make me feel a little bit better. If I have to come back for more, I'll come back for more, but I'll worry about that later. Basically what this is it's just creating a little bit more thoughtfulness about what you're eating, when you're eating, why you're eating. And so, if you can train yourself, it's a good place to start. What about some other concerns you might have related to nutrition? How about some nutrients that are particularly important to us as we age? I've got 2 for you. The first one is going to be vitamin B12. All right. So, some recommended amounts here. Deficiency is reasonably common. We tend to not make as much stomach acid as we get older, and we really need that stomach acid to break down the vitamin B12 for us in order to absorb it, so it becomes less bioavailable when we do have it in our food. And then again, it's only in animal products, and then things that have been fortified with it, so if you're vegetarian or vegan, it's particularly important. If you've had any sort of gastrointestinal surgeries or digestive disorders such as celiac or Crohn's, that's also going to affect the absorption of vitamin B12. Some people like to take some really big doses of vitamin C to ward off a cold or what have you. That can really interfere with vitamin B12 absorption too. Deficiency, here's some symptoms. Tiredness, weakness, constipation, loss of appetite, weight loss, nerve problems like tingling in hands and feet, problems with balance, depression, or memory. These are things that I hear from a lot of my clients. Sure, some of it might be kind of as we age, but maybe they just need a little bit more vitamin B12. That might be a good place for them to start. There's also some medications that can lower your B12 levels, anything that is like acid reflux or ulcers, Prilosec, Prevacid, Pepcid, Tagamet, Zantac, and then metformin for diabetes also affects it. But the good news is that just a blood test by your doctor. The next time that you do labs, ask them to run a blood test on your vitamin B12 levels and see whether you're deficient and you might benefit from some supplementation. Another one, protein. Super important as we age. It's going to help prevent our loss of muscle mass. That's sarcopenia. Older adults often eat too little protein, especially those older than 71. Most older adults are meeting recommendations for amounts of meat, poultry, eggs, so try adding seafood, dairy, and fortified soy alternatives, beans, peas, and lentils. And then those particular sources also have additional nutrients like calcium, vitamin E, vitamin B12, and fiber, so you get a twofer. Recommended amounts really vary because it is somewhat tied into caloric needs, and you saw how much variance there might be with that. But I have seen time and time again a mention of 75 grams per day agreed upon as kind of a good starting place for you. I like that number because it's pretty easy to remember. It's relatively easy to keep track of, at least an approximation. So that's protein. Now, chronic disease, osteoporosis and osteopenia is a concern. So we want to have increase our amounts of calcium, and I've got recommended amounts here. 1,200 milligrams a day for women 50 plus. That drops to 1,000 milligrams a day for men 51 to 70, but then goes back up for men 71 plus to 1,200 milligrams a day. So 1,000 to 1,200 calcium. Vitamin D, also super, super, super important. 15 milligrams micrograms, pardon me, 15 micrograms a day for adults up to age 70, and then that bumps up to 20 micrograms if you are over 70. Vitamin K, 90 micrograms a day for women, 120 micrograms a day for men. Some additional tips for you for osteoporosis, osteopenia. Maintaining healthy body weight, and that goes on either end of the spectrum. We don't want to be too slender and frail. We don't want to be too heavy, putting unnecessary stress on our bones. We want to engage in regular physical exercise, and that is preferably weight bearing as tolerated. If you've gone into full-on osteoporosis, swimming is a great option because it's really zero impact. But ideally, we kind of put the brakes on it before you get there, and so weight bearing and some impact. Honestly, stomping is a great way because I know a lot of people don't want to jump, but stomping or heel drops or what's called a hand fall on a wall for the upper body. Minimize your risks of falls. Woo. All right, also chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure. Thanks, Dad. At least that's who I'm blaming. So we want to decrease our sodium intake for those of us with high blood pressure. Not only by adding less salt to our meals, but by checking food labels consistently. Oh my gosh, they throw salt into so many different things in really huge amounts. American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligrams a day, with an ideal limit of no more than 1,500 milligrams per day for most adults, especially those with high blood pressure. Cutting back by 1,000 milligrams a day can improve blood pressure and heart health. What goes hand in hand with lowering sodium though? So sodium is one of the electrolytes. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Keeping those in balance is really important. And what tends to happen is that, we've got all this sodium and not so much calcium, magnesium, potassium in particular. So you might want to think about increasing your potassium intake as approved by your medical team. That's an important thing. Supplementation isn't really a feasible thing. There's a thing called hyperkalemia, which is too much potassium. That's a diagnosable condition, and that high blood pressure tanks your blood pressure and also can tank your heart rate. So it could be dangerous. That's why you want to make sure you're talking to your doctors. However, by getting it through food, it's going to be, easier to watch. So here's our high potassium foods. Potatoes and sweet potatoes. That one's really easy to remember. Potassium, potatoes. Soy products like edamame, tofu, and soy milk. Avocados, tomatoes, beets, coconut water, and watermelon, especially in the summer. Those are awesome. Beans and some fish, tuna, halibut, cod, trout, rockfish. Cooked spinach and broccoli. And what am I leaving out? Bananas! Everybody always likes to say, oh, I got muscle cramps, you need more potassium, eat a banana. Bananas are decent source of potassium. They're not the best. If you wanted to get all of your potassium needs from bananas, you'd need to be eating over a dozen bananas a day. A lot of bananas. Mix it up with some other stuff. All right, some pharmacological concerns. Whenever taking drugs, read the label and insert carefully for warnings. I'm gonna skip through this quickly. I'm gonna let you look at it in case anything is pertinent to you. Grapefruit juice and statins, grapefruit juice and calcium channel blockers. You gotta watch out with the consumption of those at the same time. Warfarin with vitamin K, warfarin in drinks like cranberry, grapefruit juice, and alcohol, and warfarin in a high protein diet. Basically, if you're on warfarin, you start at a low level and then kind of slowly bring it up, and that tolerance is built upon what your diet might look like on a regular basis, so don't change your diet drastically without notifying your medical professionals first. Alcohol and any drug. Please don't take your drugs with alcohol. Keep your drugs separate. And then MAOI, so antidepressants and to treat Parkinson's, and pickled, cured, and fermented foods, interestingly enough, do not play well together. Calcium-containing foods and many drugs. A lot of drugs don't play well with calcium-containing foods, so don't take your drugs with yogurt, milk, or cheese. All right, supplements, AKA pills, potions, and powders. Vitamins, minerals, herbs and botanicals, protein powders and amino acids, pre- and probiotics, and others like homeopathics, fish oils, caffeine. All of those fall under the supplements umbrella. Here's what I'm going to say about supplements. The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994 means that the FDA is not authorized to approve dietary supplements for safety and effectiveness before they're marketed. Basically, they wait until people complain about them, and then they look into them. Mixing medications and dietary supplements can endanger your health. Don't assume natural means safe. After all, arsenic is natural. Talk to your healthcare professional before taking any supplement. Be sure to have a list of all supplements and medications you take updated and on file. All right, bottom line on supplements is only take them if you have a genuine need, if there's strong science to back up its usefulness, and you're buying from a trusted manufacturer. Generally speaking, you tend to see like a little blurb in a magazine, and that sounds promising, and you go to the store and you buy it. Well, you know, maybe do a little bit more research about it first. And always make sure your medical team knows about anything that you might be taking. So I get it, sometimes nutrition can feel kind of complex and really confusing because, you know, one person says to do this and the other person says to do the exact opposite. But stick to those basics, right? The frequently recommended dietary plans that all have those things in common. Stick to the basics. Don't fall for the newest hype or fad, and of course always communicate with your medical team. All right. After all of today, you know you want to make some sort of a change. How do we do that? What's the best way? You make a SMART goal. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. You've got your second sheet is about SMART goals. The way that this looks is, some people might say, I want to get into better shape. That's their goal. All right, well that's definitely not specific. It's not measurable. It's not achievable, because what is better shape, right? So we can make that a little bit better. We can do better than that. How about by the end of May, I will be getting the recommended 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity cardio by taking a 30-minute walk 5 days per week in my neighborhood right after I eat dinner. Well, that fits all those criteria. It's very specific. It's very measurable. Is it 150 minutes a week? You've got the whole week to get there. It's broken down into 30 minutes a day. Maybe one day you only do 15. Okay, well then you've got an extra 5 minutes, 3 days a week that you can add on, and you can still make your goal. It's achievable. That's a realistic goal. Like, no, 150 minutes a week is not too bad. It's not fast. Measurable, achievable, realistic, relevant. Very relevant and realistic. And then of course, timely, right? It's got by the end of May. Did I or didn't I? First week, maybe not so much. Second week, maybe you do a little bit better. Third week, a little bit closer. Fourth week, you got there. Then you can say you met the goal. And now you've created a new habit. And it's gonna keep you going. Not any more questions, just any questions. And also, before we get to questions, hopefully everybody's got the brochure now. This has my contact info on the back. I know I just sped through a lot of info, so maybe you don't have a question right now, but tonight at 2 a.m. you wake up with a question. Shoot me an email, send me a text. Please don't call me at 2 a.m. But any of those other options are just fine. So, on the outside. Yes, please. Well, because I only had an hour. Sure. But I would be happy to have a discussion with you about that at another time. But yes, I had to pick and choose what I could include. Yes.
Cooked broccoli in Spanish, but
Yes.
it's not good for you raw.
It is good for you raw. Cooking it improves the bioavailability of certain nutrients. That stands true for a lot of foods. That cooking changes the way that the body's going to be able to absorb it, the bioavailability of it. Raw is just fine. You're still going to get plenty from any sort of raw fruits or vegetables, as long as they're not toxic as well. But cooking does tend to make a lot of those nutrients more bioavailable. The flip side is it can break down and make other nutrients be literally less available. They're just broken down and they're no longer there for you. But in a small enough percentage that I would say it's not worth worrying about. Anybody else? Yes, Janet.
Do you take insurance?
Ah, yeah. Man, I wish I did. What I can...
Asking for a friend.
I wonder who that might be. So what is feasible is if you have a health savings account, you can get a letter of medical need from your doctor that basically is writing a prescription, not an official prescription, but a recommendation for exercise. Now, what that needs to look like is it can't be like, I think you should go to the gym, and now you can use your HSA to pay for your gym. It can't look like, I think you should go take a group fitness class, and then you use your HSA to pay for your fitness class. It can be, you have a specific medical concern, and your doctor thinks you need exercise and you should see a personal trainer for exercise that will specifically address that medical concern, then you can use your HSA to pay for it. So there's, kind of some tax benefit from that perspective, but no, I don't work with insurance. Insurance will not cover personal training like that or fitness classes.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was a good one. We did.
Do we have any other questions?
Good job.
Let's give Rachel a round of applause. Thank you for being here. You're
Ooh, I get to draw.
Oh, we have a raffle. Okay, so, yeah.
Just gonna mix them up. I'm not choosing favorites.
And the winner is Mona! Yay! So, along with Rachel's amazing seminar today, Nancy and I host monthly senior seminars, as you all know. But just wanted to give you a heads up on what's coming up. We have the Alzheimer's Association next month at both venues, the 10 warning signs, and then we have VNA Health, Don't Be Scared, Be Prepared. In July, August, we have Senior Care 101. Michael's going to cover an important checklist for all seniors aging gracefully. And then we have David Henderson in September discussing current fraud schemes, elder abuse, and crime prevention tips. And in October, at the University Club, Jeannie West is coming. And she is just an extraordinary, she's just such a wonderful woman. She's gonna be talking about caring for the caregiver. So yeah, we're really excited to have all of these experts come and speak. I have a little personal announcement I'd like to make. We have the educational sponsors that we spoke of earlier. We have brochures at the back table as well as Rachel's, and anything else you need, just ask Nancy or myself. But I volunteer at Grace Fisher's clubhouse. We have Grace's grandma here today, and I helped do the solstice parade. So if you know, we had a 79-year-old gal join us last year, which was fun. And then we have children of all abilities come. So it's just it's a fun activity. But there's also painting. You walk in there. It's an extraordinary place, and I always leave there with my heart fluttering. So it's just really special. So if you know anyone with a child who's disabled or abled and wants to dance in the parade, or if you're interested, please pick up one of these flyers and pass along the information. And if you're ever in La Cumbre Plaza, just go by, because it's just so magical. And when you walk in on the left, there's all these beautiful pictures. And oh, I should rewind. Grace Fisher is quadriplegic. She got a virus her senior year of high school that attacked her spine. And by the time she went from her home to the hospital, she had lost all of her movement from her shoulders down. So through Make-A-Wish Foundation, she opened this all-inclusive arts clubhouse, and she gives back arts to everybody. So it's just really special. So when you walk in, the pictures on the left, she has painted with her mouth. She is extraordinary. And if you're at the parade and you see the float, the huge picture that's blown up is one of her paintings. So, and talking about giving back, we have one other.
Yeah, Rachel and I are working on a food drive right now for the food pantry. And so if you're interested in taking a bag, we will come and pick it up and deliver it to the food pantry. So we've got bags here, and inside the bag we'll have our list of seminars also. So we get 2 for 1.
And if you did want to participate in that, we need to pick them up by Thursday, whenever. Okay, all right. So, round of applause for Rachel. One more time.
And in case you don't know, Rachel has a studio right behind Taco Bell on Fairview, over by Encino Royale. And so you can go over there and see where her classes are. It's very, like I said, cozy and warm. She can do private classes if you don't want to be with other people, or she has small classes. So it's a great location, and she's very warm and welcoming.
And amazing. I was practicing in the back.
Yes. Then take your arms away, then close your eyes.
Well, just the way you were moving with your hands, and then you were pointing here, and I'm like, she's still up on
I used to be able to do that when I was your age and 50. That changes.
Well, I'm gonna at least once a month, see if I can still do it.
Yes, I was practicing. So speaking of turning 50, my birthday is May 13th. So at each table you have your flowers. Whoever is closest to my birthday, you may you may take the flowers home with you.
And happy Mother's Day.
And happy Mother's Day. Yes. Thank you all for coming.